Hey you, welcome back to Mick. My name is of course Jack, your favorite Aussie tea drinker, and here's today's stories. As always, if you enjoyed today's content, please leave a like and show your love by subscribing and commenting any thoughts you have down below. But with all that said, let's get straight into it. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend she has no chance with a guy she met once? Okay, so my friend met this guy at the mall, who was seemingly perfect to her. Charming, cute, nice and whatnot. They only talked once, and all they did was say hi to each other. She says she really hopes to meet him again, and I tell her it's not likely. Now, you may be wondering why would you say that? Well, I think it's best that she get over him faster because they didn't exchange any contacts or anything. And besides, she admits he was probably a lot older than her, so I tell her that he probably didn't like her and she should get over him soon. She started to get angry with me, and I mean, I can kind of get why. So, am I the a-hole here? To me, I think I'm just stating the facts. Some quick thoughts? Nata, because you are right. However, does it hurt her to dream? It'll fade from her system on its own. She didn't need your reality check. You are the a-hole. Nothing between their interaction says whether or not he would be interested, so who are you to say? It sounded like they just greeted each other, and maybe if she's seen him again, they might exchange contact details. And you may be right in saying he won't like her, but from the limited info you have, it sounds like you can't really make that judgment. Short story, but in a way still rather convoluted. I suppose it depends on your own morality of the situation. I get you're trying to just save possibly hurt future feelings, but it seems like she was just admiring the moment and was just expressing a bit of hopefulness. Maybe if she's proven to be a romantic in the past, then yeah, give her a reality check. But I think you're the a-hole. Hell, if anything, next time encourage her to be more upfront about just asking for a guy's number straight away. Next story. Am I the a-hole for giving my daughter more attention than my sons? I'm a 40-year-old female, and 3 years ago, my husband, who was 39 at the time, died in a car crash. My daughter Kate, who was 10 at the time, was in the car with him. Luckily, Kate wasn't seriously injured, but she has severe anxiety and PTSD from that crash. Kate's PTSD relapsed and she's having nightmares to the point where she wakes up screaming almost every night, has flashbacks at least once a day, and, well, she's extremely attached to me. She's working with a therapist and is slowly getting better. She didn't wake up screaming last night, but she still needs a lot of attention. I used to make dinner with my oldest, a 17-year-old male, while Kate played in her room, but now she usually makes dinner with us, and when she's not, she's sitting at the kitchen table watching. I also used to watch a movie with my oldest and middle son, 16 male, after Kate went to bed, but now our bedtime routine takes longer. I used to braid her hair and tuck her in, but now I braid her hair, tuck her in, and read to her until she falls asleep, because it helps her calm down. And I don't have time to watch a full movie with them as a result. Last night, Kate fell asleep pretty fast, so I had time to watch a movie with my sons, but when I asked them if they wanted to watch a movie, they told me to go back to Kate's room since I'd obviously rather be with her anyway. I tried to explain that she needs this right now, but they wouldn't hear it. Am I the a-hole for giving my daughter more attention? Edit, I'm realizing that I didn't make this clear in the post, but Kate hasn't been like this for 3 years. She's had anxiety and PTSD since the crash, but it's been manageable until around 2 weeks ago when her PTSD relapsed. Definitely a lot more darker than the first story, so let's see what some comments say. You are not the a-hole, and shame on anyone who says otherwise. You are all in therapy, that is good. There is no rule book for grief or PTSD, and seriously, 2 weeks of the routine changing and your teenage sons can't find compassion and flexibility. Perhaps spend some of those treatment sessions, should be family sessions. No, I hate to say it, but you are the a-hole. You have 3 children. Yes, your daughter is going to need a lot of help right now, but so are your boys. They lost their father too. I suggest getting individual therapy for everyone, including you, and apologize to your sons for not being there for them. Yeah, this one is rather back and forth. It's hard to place judgment on this without considering the fact that this is a single mother with 3 kids right now, especially 3 traumatized kids for valid reasons. Despite my personal views regarding having children and the responsibility that should always come with it that should be expected, I still don't think it's fair to call you an a-hole in this scenario. I don't know, maybe there's some parents or people out there who have managed to handle multiple kids that are going through their own levels of trauma, and maybe you are playing a bit of favoritism in this scenario, but I personally can't see it. You have tried to give them equal amounts of attention in the past, and right now you just need to give more attention to the daughter. Let your sons be upset, they'll grow up and understand what you were trying to do. Next story, am I the a-hole for refusing to eat out-of-date chicken? So this literally just happened half an hour ago, so things are pretty tense here. I went to have a Sunday lunch at my boyfriend's mother's house. We have been together for 2 years, but obviously, because of the pandemic, I have not met her in person that much, only recently a few times in the garden. So I get there and I ask if she needs any help in the kitchen. She says it's not necessary, but there's always something to do if I want. I leave my boyfriend chatting with his dad and go and help her. I peel and chop some potatoes and onions. There is some rubbish on the counter in the way, so I ask where the bin is and she tells me. I pick up the rubbish and it's the wrapper from the chicken. I notice that the date on the wrapper is the 29th of May. Yesterday. I mention that and ask if the chicken was frozen, and she says no. Now, I have IBS and a sensitive stomach, and something about eating out-of-date food just doesn't sit well with me. When the meal is cooked and it is served, and I say I don't want any chicken please, just the potatoes and vegetables is fine. My boyfriend is looking at me like I'm crazy, because usually I love chicken. His mother asks if this is because of the date, as she checked with my boyfriend in advance that my favorite meat for a Sunday roast was chicken, and my boyfriend asks for an explanation, so I just say that I'm not comfortable eating out-of-date food, and the chicken expired yesterday. His mum did seem uncomfortable and a little taken aback, but didn't say anything, and I was perfectly happy just eating my potatoes and vegetables. His dad just covered up the awkwardness and was like, "More chicken for me, I'll have her portion." Whilst my boyfriend silently fumed, and I could tell he was upset. Way more upset than his mum, anyway. In the car, my boyfriend blew up at me and said his mum is very nervous about meeting new people, and she'd cooked a lovely meal and I'd really insulted her. I tried explaining that I don't eat meat that's out of date, unless it's been frozen before it expires, and he's saying that it's illogical that I'd be okay eating it if she'd frozen it at 1 minute to midnight, and then defrosted it again in the morning. And when he puts it like that, I concede that I do seem a bit illogical. Because, actually, I would be fine with that. To me, a use-by date on meat is a hard rule that protects people. And I don't know whether it's going to go off in an hour, or 6 hours, or 12 hours, or whatever. I just don't want to risk it. It wasn't an insult to his mum's cooking or anything. It's just a personal choice on my part not to risk getting a bad stomach. So, am I the a-hole for saying no thank you to the out-of-date chicken? I don't think his mum is an a-hole for serving it either, by the way, but I think my boyfriend is an a-hole for refusing to respect my choice and making a big deal out of it. Straight to the comments. Everyone sucks here. You yourself admit that it was kind of illogical on your part, but your boyfriend is an a-hole for blowing up at you. Especially since you have a health condition that would make you wary about this kind of stuff. Nah, I am really fussy on not eating out-of-date food, and I wouldn't have wanted any of the chicken either. I think I'd have put some on my plate and then discreetly cut it up so it looks like I've eaten most of it, then leave it. Now these opinions are well said, but I do appreciate this one for being rather factual above everything else. People who don't understand how expiration dates work truly freaking astound me. You really think that chicken goes, "Oh snap, it's 30th of May, 12:01 AM, time to go bad"? Expiration dates are for quality, not safety. They're not an exact science, and there's obviously a safety margin used. Use your common sense and actually inspect food quality for bad odors or colors before throwing it out or refusing to eat. You're the a-hole. And I mean, it's true, it's why I'm personally gonna go Yatar. Sure, you have things that cause you to be a bit more cautious about what you eat and how healthy it is to eat it, but I feel like if that was genuinely the case, you'd develop the ability to know to smell food and look for those colors and, off looks. Personally, it just sounds like you're that kind of person who says they're gluten intolerant just because they don't want gluten, not because they're actually a celiac. Learn the difference between an expiration date, a use-by date, and a best before date. Aside from the expiration date, most of the time they have that there just to encourage you to buy it again and again and again. Next story. Am I the a-hole for giving my mum an ultimatum? She either gets on board or opts out. I'm a 22-year-old male, and I adopted my daughter of 18 months a few months after she was born, since her birth mother, my ex-friend, basically neglected her, and I wanted to give her a chance at a better life. I don't have everything figured out, but my parents' attitude towards the entire situation hasn't been helpful either. They've never explicitly stated their opinions, but I know they think I basically threw my life away for my daughter. That's not even the case though. I kept up with schooling, and I'm taking the MCAT in a few weeks. My mum makes consistent comments about what my twin brother has done, and how he has a girlfriend, and living his life to try and make me feel like I made a freaking mistake. I got kinda fed up with everything and told her that she can either accept the situation and get on board, or just opt out. She doesn't have to play grandma to her if she doesn't want to, but she just thinks I'm overreacting, and she's thinking of the best for me. It's a quick detail, but straight to the point, which I love. I know my thoughts here are gonna be rather contested, but I'm genuinely only saying that your mother is an a-hole here because of her rather deplorable attempt at trying to help you with the situation. It's definitely sweet of you and mature of you to take up the responsibility of that child, but just reading this story, I feel like you're being far too hopeful and confident with what you're going to be able to achieve with this child. I don't know, look, I can be biased towards this. In the line of work I've done for a long time, I now adamantly believe that we as a society should be forcefully sterilized, and the only way you should be able to have kids, or even be allowed to have kids, is if you apply for it like a driver's license. So I might just end my thoughts there and leave it up to what some of the comments might say. Everyone sucks here. You probably won't get into med school on your first go. You're only 22 and male. Your biggest life experience as of right now is adopting your deadbeat friend's daughter. Studying for the MCAT is a full-time job, unless you're a genius at taking tests. If you've been studying for the MCAT while raising a baby as a single dad, and you manage to score something that makes you competitive, then phew, I've underestimated you. Nah, you're just the a-hole here. Legally, you may be an adult, but at 22, you are still really a kid. I know you don't feel like it, but you are. You are so hyper-focused on this child. You have failed to realize you are your mother's child. This type of narrow-mindedness reeks of immaturity. The last thing you need to do when taking on something bigger than you are is spit in the face of people that love you. Somewhat fair point, but I mean, that last sentence can also be applied to the mother. I'm sure it's a big thing to have a young adult son who's suddenly having the responsibility of being an adult and parent. Fair to say that's bigger than her. And yet here she is spitting in the face of him. Not the a-hole. I have kids. I get it. Your parents get on board or they get the frick out. I don't care if it's your biological kid, adopted, or grown in a lab. That's your kid. Period. It is harsh, but I do feel like the everyone sucks here in Yatar comments are a bit more in-depth than the Natar. What are your thoughts though? Leave them down below. I'll have a read of them too. For now, next story. Am I the a-hole for calling a guy's boss after he stole money from me when on a date? I had a casual date with a guy, and afterwards, I realized $40 from my car was gone. I was sure it was him since I checked my dashcam footage and saw him stealing it. I knew his first name, but while he has said his last name, I had forgotten it. He also showed up to the date still wearing the security keycard for work on a lanyard, and I remembered the business. I called his office and asked the guy who picked up if I could talk to the manager there, and asked the management if they could give me the contact details of Jason, whose last name I was forgetting. He had brown hair and a goatee. The manager said, "Jason Smith? He's the only Jason here." Fake name, by the way. And I said, "Yes, thank you," and asked for contact info. He asked what project I was with, and I told him this wasn't a business call. Jason had robbed me, and I needed his information to go to the cops about it. So, could I also have his address and other info, like license plate and vehicle if they had it, so I could pass it on to the cops, so they could find him? This guy on the phone said he didn't think he could give it out, and I said, "Okay, thank you for the info you already gave me. It would help a lot." Anyway, I took the guy's name and found his home address from ownership records online. It was crazy. He was way rich with a fancy house and stealing from a date. I went to the cops about it and I got my money back. I don't think I would have if I didn't do all the legwork of getting the info myself. The cops here are so lazy and incompetent that they only do stuff if you give them all the info yourself. They won't do any research for small crimes. But I got a real angry voicemail from the guy who was yelling on the phone about me going to his employer and how I screwed him over and, well, then the voicemail timer cut him off, so I don't know the rest or if he still has a job or not. Am I the a-hole for calling the employer of a guy who stole money from me? It doesn't mention their age in the story, but this is really borderline Karen behavior. Don't get me wrong, the guy's an a-hat to steal money from you, but am I the only one here who perceives half the story as her being really entitled to get whatever she wants? I have to theorize that maybe she took advantage of his hospitality throughout some dates they had, and so he's decided to reimburse himself. I don't know, especially the fact he apparently has such a fancy house. I feel like this is a case where there's more to this story that she is just deciding not to give us. Anyway, that's all for today. A shorter video as I'm unfortunately going to be heading to a wedding this week, so I'm a bit preoccupied. Regardless, thanks for stopping by as always. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you enjoyed your time today, please leave a like to show your appreciation, and any thoughts or feelings you have about today's stories, as well as just how these videos are done in general, are always appreciated when you mention them in the comments. I know some people enjoy my personal spice in these videos, while some others just prefer it to be just flat out red without any personality added in as well. So I pass the question off to you. Do you enjoy these videos where I simply just read the stories and the people's opinions and leave it at that? Or do you enjoy these videos because of my unique take on them? I'd genuinely love to know, so if you have any thoughts, please leave them in the comments. Otherwise, you have a lovely morning, day, evening, sleep, whatever you're doing right now, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.